By the time the Warriors wrapped up practice on Wednesday, the internal mood around the franchise had shifted. What began weeks ago as a quiet tension between Jonathan Kuminga'S expectations and Steve Kerr's rotations had grown into something much larger, an organizational question about direction, timeline, and identity. Golden State is no longer simply evaluating a young player. They are evaluating the future of an era. Inside the front office, the discussion surrounding Kuminga has evolved from, how do we maximize him? To, is this still the right place for him? The January 15th threshold, when his contract becomes trade eligible, looms over every meeting, every rotation choice, and every public statement Kerr delivers. What once felt theoretical now feels imminent. The coaching staff has rewatched game film repeatedly, comparing Kuminga'S preseason brilliance to the inconsistent decision-making that resurfaced once the regular season began. They saw a player who defended with fire, attacked the rim with purpose, and adapted to Kerr's structure. But they also saw the rapid fade, rushed shots, stalled ball movement, and breakdowns within the system. The contrast has created a dilemma that no speech or motivational conversation can resolve. Within the locker room, players understand the situation more clearly than ever. Veterans have seen this cycle before. Young talent trying to develop in a system built around championship pressure. They know the truth. Development has a deadline in Golden State. And Kuminga'S clock is dangerously close to expiring. The possibility of a trade is not viewed with anger or emotion but with acceptance. Kerr said it himself. The NBA is a business where loyalty is fragile and permanence is rare. Still, the idea of moving on from a former number 7 overall pick, someone believed to be a future cornerstone, signals a deeper shift in the franchise's vision. It suggests the Warriors may finally be transitioning away from the belief that they can develop youth while contending. Hard choices are coming and Kuminga may be the first. Yet the subplot that intensifies everything is the unexpected twist. Stephen Curry is returning. Curry's comeback is more than just a superstar joining the lineup. For the front office, it is a measuring tool. With him on the floor, roles sharpen, rotations compress, and weaknesses become more exposed. If Kuminga fits with Curry immediately, the conversation changes. If he doesn't, the franchise will take that as confirmation that the experiment has run its course. Kerr hinted at this evaluation process when he mentioned Kuminga's strong practice. It wasn't praise, it was a test. The Warriors are watching how he responds to pressure, to reduced minutes, to public scrutiny. These are not random observations. They are data points guiding a decision that could reshape the season. Meanwhile, Golden State faces Minnesota on Friday, a team Kuminga torched in last year's playoffs. The irony is unavoidable. The matchup that once elevated his trajectory might now define his future. One wrong step, one poor sequence, one repeat of the habits Kerr has warned about could accelerate the decision the franchise has been delaying. Inside the organization, conversations have already expanded to potential returns. No names have been leaked, but the Warriors are believed to be seeking players who complement Curry's timeline, veterans or near-prime contributors capable of stabilizing the bench and reinforcing the system. If the right offer appears, Kuminga may be gone before the end of the month. But it is not just Kuminga's fate at stake. This decision will reveal how Golden State views its next chapter. Are they still clinging to the developmental experiment that began after the 2021 draft? Or are they shifting into full preservation mode for the final years of Curry's career? The franchise is at a crossroads. And in the center of it, strangely, quietly, stands a 21-year-old forward whose talent is undeniable, whose potential remains incomplete, and whose future may now depend on a single performance, a single week, or a single decision made behind closed doors. The Warriors built a dynasty by knowing exactly who they were. Now their next move will determine who they become. Inside Real Madrid's headquarters, the atmosphere following the defeat to Manchester City felt less like the aftermath of a group stage match and more like an emergency meeting held in the final hours of a season collapsing. Reports emerged throughout the night. Phone calls between executives, private conversations between key board members, and internal evaluations of Xabi Alonso's work. The club had reached a boiling point. For weeks, Real Madrid's leadership had insisted that Alonso's project would be given time. Transition demands patience, was the prevailing message. But the defeat to Celta, combined with the performance against City, triggered a shift that had been building quietly behind closed doors. What happened after the final whistle only accelerated discussions that many believed would remain private until the end of the month. According to sources close to the club, the meeting that followed the match centered on three fundamental issues: discipline, adaptation, and authority. The first point concerned the recurring lapses inside the squad, errors that Madrid's directors believe stem not from a lack of ability, but from a lack of structure. Several players have regressed defensively, and the staff attributes part of that decline to insufficient tactical correction. The second issue was adaptation. Certain members of the board feel that Xabi Alonso has been struggling to adjust his methodology to Madrid's environment, which demands instant results, global pressure management, and flexibility. They argue that his tactical approach is too rigid for a squad with strong personalities and high tactical variability. The third point was authority, perhaps the most sensitive. Rumors have circulated for weeks that some stars, including Vinicius Jr. and Jude Bellingham, have become frustrated with the coach's handling of their roles. While they have not requested any drastic action, the tension has contributed to a destabilizing atmosphere inside the locker room. Support for Xabi is no longer unanimous, and the lack of unity is now impossible to ignore. Still, not everyone in the squad opposes him. Rodrigo's public show of support was genuine, reflecting the opinions of a portion of the team who believe the coach needs time, not punishment. But in a club like Real Madrid, time is the one resource that rarely exists. As discussions intensified, Real Madrid quietly reactivated a list of possible replacements, something they had hoped to avoid. Zinedine Zidane's name resurfaced immediately. Free since 2021, Zidane recently admitted he wanted to return to work soon, but the French national team remains a significant ambition. Madrid is uncertain whether he would accept a mid-season return. Another name mentioned is Jurgen Klopp. His reputation, his experience at handling elite dressing rooms, and his charisma make him an attractive option. However, Madrid's leadership knows that Klopp recently stepped away from coaching to recover from burnout. Convincing him to abandon that break seems complicated. The third alternative is internal: Alvaro Arbeloa. The current Castilla manager has support within the club for his leadership, discipline, and alignment with Real Madrid's current vision for youth development. He is seen as a temporary or transitional option, capable of stabilizing the environment if needed. But all these decisions depend on one key outcome: Madrid's next game. Xabi Alonso's fate may be decided in a matter of hours, depending heavily on performance and result. Despite public support from players and internal promises of evaluation, the reality is simple: the loss to City has pushed the club to the edge. The pressure is now suffocating. Players are aware that any mistake in the next match could lead to a complete restructuring of the coaching staff. Assistants, analysts, and tactical coordinators are equally under review. This is no longer about performance alone, it is about credibility. Xabi himself appears fully aware of the situation. His demeanor